All right, we are on air. It is Thursday, May 10th. This is a meeting to check in on active development tasks for Backdrop CMS. Before we get into that, though, we have a very exciting announcement from the PMC. Backdrop was officially adopted as a project for the Software Freedom Conservancy this week.
Hey.
So, hooray! I'd like to say thank you to Matthew Tift, who I believe, Nate, correct me if I'm wrong, he recommended the Software Freedom Conservancy to us maybe 3 years ago about being a good place to go. So I'm really excited that we were finally able to make that happen. They wrote a blog post this week about it. I have a meeting with our team next week to send out a newsletter. If anybody wants to write a blog post about that before then, that would be fantastic. It should probably be something like what it means for Backdrop to be part of the Conservancy. And for somebody to write that post, it might require doing a little research of like looking at all of the awesome things the Conservancy can provide for us. So it could take some time. So don't volunteer for it unless you are interested and willing to do that research. But the primary things are people who make donations to Backdrop. Those are now tax deductible, which is fantastic. So on the backdropcms.org website, the contribute page, I've already swapped out the donate button. That's the top one on that page with one that goes to Conservancy, and people will get tax deductible donations for that one. If people want t-shirts and hoodies, that form that we're using to let them specify what size and style they want is still our form. So I'm working with the Conservancy to get a custom made form to replace the one that we have now. The button was easy, they just sent that out. So hopefully we'll get that new form in place before we start doing our own press about it, like our own blog post and our own newsletter will go out just to make sure that whatever way people want to give us money, they'll get tax deductions for it. And I've also added a section to the contribute page telling people where they can send a check if they want to send a check. But we are currently working on getting all of our financial stuff organized with them, but already people can get tax deductible donations, at least via the donate button. So it's exciting. Yay. Tell all your friends. In terms of community, we have,
sorry, Jen,
go ahead.
Does that fit anywhere in the about section? Like, should something like a mention go in the about section?
Yeah, anywhere you think we should include it, I think that would be valuable. The about section is a good place. We also might want to add like a standalone page about the Conservancy if we have enough information for that. So I'm definitely open to that. And in general, we have a lot of editors on the backdropcms.org site that have good ideas about where content should go. There's issues in the queue about like pages we might want to add. Like Mike created an issue recently, and thank you, Wade, on Clonos about wanting to put a security page up. I'm totally in favor of doing that. We just need someone to write the content. So if anyone who's a content editor on the site wants to make a page and write the content at any time, that's totally fine. If you want to review first, just leave it unpublished and put a link somewhere. So same thing goes for this. If you want to add a page or add a paragraph or whatever, go for it.
Maybe, Nate, can you just start a page just with filling in the details of what your role is? Because I don't know what work is involved, how things are coordinated, and then if you add this really rough, then one of us can jump in and then fill in the gaps. It's just that we don't know the internals of how things are coordinated or with details can go public, stuff like that.
Got it. And do you want that to include like the coordination with Drupal teams and things like that? Okay.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I'll stub that out. And thank you for volunteering to tidy up a rough outline, because it's really easy to write an outline. So I'll do that. Thank you.
Well, also, Nate, I know you have a blog post you have to write soon. Our marketing team has offered to turn an outline into a blog post for you if you want to make them an outline for that as well.
All right. I'm outlining blog posts and people are writing them. It's going to be great.
All right. Let's see here. Community-wise, we have a new contributor, Megaphone John, has ported the Nagios module, which is something that existed for Drupal, and Palante needed to use it on one of their sites. So they had one of their developers support it, which is great. Now we're going to have it. They've been running it in production for a while, and it seems to be going well, so they're contributing it to Backdrop. So thanks to that team for getting that done, which is great. On our website, the forum site is about to get some updates. We discussed them in more detail in the design and usability meeting we just had over the last hour. So if you're interested in seeing all the stuff we talked about there, I'd encourage you to watch that video. We probably shouldn't go into them again here. I want to turn it over to Nate to talk about what we're doing for Backdrop, the project itself now.
Okay, filing issues. I got my one issue file. Okay, here we go. Okay, man, so things are exciting right now. Boy, we got the Conservancy thing. Like we've joined up with the Software Freedom Conservancy. That's really exciting. The 1.10 release is coming out next week. That's really exciting. Lots of new activities happening. New sites are being built. Man, there's so much happening. It's great. So let's start at the beginning of things and talk about the bug fix releases. The next bug fix release, and probably the last bug fix release for the 1.9 branch, will be 1.9.6. There's still one outstanding issue there that we would like to prioritize, and that's this problem that we have with database credentials now being URL encoded and potentially causing problems from people upgrading from previous versions of Backdrop to 1.9 and higher. This issue is issue 2904, where we have a workaround still, but we need to expose to the user the fact that there's a problem that they need to fix. I posted a comment to the issue saying how I think we could go about that, but we haven't updated the implementation yet. Looks like John Franklin, who does a lot of these awesome backend issues, gave it the thumbs up, at least conceptually. So it looks like, it seems like it's a good idea or a good approach. Let's see. There's also a bunch of other items in the 1.9.6 queue. We've actually been knocking a lot of them out as we do a lot of code review. So we've got a number of them that got knocked out. Some problems with table select, jQuery form, JS fix, some problems with color module, updates for PHP 7.2. Oh, thank you very much to Joseph or Joseph for doing that issue that makes it so that Backdrop is now fully compatible with PHP 7.2, which previously it would run, but that threw some exceptions in edge casey places. And now in 1.9.6, it should be fully PHP 7.2 compatible. So thank you very much for the work there importing that. Let's see. I'm not going to go through all of the other 1.9.6 issues. We do have 27 open issues in that tag of just things that they're really more like high priority bug fixes, but none of them particularly critical outside of that 2904 issue for database credentials. So use GitHub as Tracker to check out those items. And of course, anything that we fix in 1.9.6 will also be in the 1.10 release. So let's talk about 1.10. 1.10 comes out in 5 days. That's Tuesday next week, May 15th. Very exciting to have that release on the horizon. Let's do a run through here of what we have in the 1.10 release, or at least the items that we've got prioritized and their statuses. Translation improvements. Translation improvements was our area of focus, our primary area of focus for the 1.10 release. And we got 2 out of the 3 things that we wanted to achieve into 1.10. The 2 items that are completed include translation of menu items, which is issue 225. That's been merged since code freeze, so 10 days now. And there's no substantial updates there. But I did file a follow-up, which is issue 3100. Sorry, 3100, to make it so that right now, if you update from 1.9 to 1.10, the menu item language code column in the database causes the site to be unusable until you run update.php, which is not an unheard of situation in the world of Backdrop, and definitely not in the world of Drupal, that the site doesn't work until you run update.php. But the problem is that makes it hard for users to log into their site if it's not usable. So we want to make it so that the site is still functional if users update to 1.10 so that they can log into it and then visit update.php. So that issue 3100 is basically find a way to work around the menu updates, not the menu updates, but the menu queries from completely breaking the site. And then once update.php is run, then it just starts using the new column. So that one, I filed it as a bug. I mean, but I don't know. It's a little bit fuzzy as to if it would actually be a bug, because it's the behavior of Backdrop. But it's definitely something that we want to smooth that upgrade process. And I feel like every time we introduce a little bump like this, it's ruining people's confidence in our backwards compatibility policy and making it easy to update and upgrade and maintain. So we would really like to get that workaround in place before 1.10 comes out. Next item is block translation, issue 2956. We merged this on Code Freeze Day, and there's no updates there. That one still looks great. Of course, if anybody that wants to, please install the 1.10 or the 1.x latest dev version and try it out. Block translation is new, and it does have test coverage, but once it hits actual usage, we'll probably find new problems. Let's see. That's it for the translation improvements. We also wanted to take a crack at improving the configuration translation system, but that one we've punted to the next release, I believe. Let's see. Improvements to modules, themes, and layouts. There's been some other issues that we have completed in here, but they've been removed from the agenda for brevity. The one issue that's still open here is issue 37, which is making it so that modules can expose tags in addition to categories. The status of this one is that it still needs feedback. There still isn't, we haven't reached total consensus there as to the usefulness of the functionality and how it should work. And also code-wise, it needs some iteration there. So this one's, as far as features are concerned, is probably the only thing that is still like potentially out there for 1.10 that might happen as a user experience feature. It's exempt from the feature freeze as long as it's limited in scope and low impact as far as likelihood to break the site. So it's still possible to get that in for 1.10, but we need to get things figured out and resolve kind of our differences there quickly for that one to happen. Let's see, other features for 1.10. Going through the ones that got in, comment closer, we added this capability in issue 3001 to make it so that you can now schedule per content type, say, automatically close comments after X number of days, like 14 days. And then after content has existed for 14 days, comments will automatically be closed on that issue to prevent spam from coming in on legacy content. I filed a follow-up on this one, issue 3102, which is making it so that the checkbox that we have on the node form for automatically closing the comments, you can, per node, allow the comment closer to be enabled or disabled. And the UX around that checkbox right now is rather poor. And so I filed a suggestion there, just flipping around the way that we use the checkbox on the node form to enable and disable the overriding of the comment closer. So please take a look at that one. That one needs some feedback, at least on the suggestion of the implementation there. And then if we're in agreement, we can move forward and change the way that checkbox works, which is pretty trivial as far as code, but it's a mentality flip on the way that works. Let's see. Also, in the realm of scheduling things, scheduled publishing has been added in issue 857. So effectively, scheduler module for publishing things. And this one has one follow pull request that fixes 2 issues. There's issue 3073 that when we introduce the scheduler, we use the date module's date pop-up field, which introduced a coupling or a dependency on date module. Now node module effectively depends on date. And so there's a couple of ways that we can fix that problem, or we could just make it so that date becomes a required module to match node module. But there's a pull request in that issue that makes it so that if date module is available, it uses the date field. Otherwise, it just uses a plain text field. And that ties into issue 1370, which is the authored on field on the node form right now, and pretty much for the entire history of Backdrop, has been a text field with a date pop-up on it that hasn't worked very well. And and it's also got some weird like time zone problems, like you have to include your GMT offset like in the authored on field. It's a really terrible UX that matches what we've had in all of Drupal 7, just with a pop-up field on it now. But the pull request fixes both of those issues because it makes it so that we use the same date pop-up field for both the scheduled date and the authored date if date is available. And if date is not available, then it uses a plain text field for both. So you get the current kind of cruddy UX for both fields if date module is not enabled. You get a much better UX if date module is enabled that uses the elements from that date module provides. So please take a look at those issues. There's only one pull request that fixes both of those problems. And one of them, the authored on field getting fixed would be nice. That's been a long-standing issue. And then fixing the new scheduled date would also, it's in many ways almost imperative that we figure out one solution or the other for when 1.10 is released. Okay, and lastly, in the world of features is the ability to upload files through the cKeditor link dialog. That's issue 2072. No updates on that one. That one has been merged and is complete, and we'll just put out another request for additional testing. Like, please try out the 1.10 dev release, which is actually just the latest dev release, and let us know if there's any problems with the cKeditor link dialog. Because right now we have it all tested manually, you know, because it's JavaScript based and it's in the WYSIWYG editor. So there's a lot of manual testing involved there, and we don't know of any issues yet, but please test it to be comprehensive. Let's see. There are a number of 1.10, well, there's like 3 other 1.10 issues that are in the 1.10 milestone. And you can check that out by visiting GitHub and then filtering to the 1.10 milestone. Everything with the exception of the tags issue has a pull request that is in a needs review state. We'd like to update Jquery Ui to the latest version. There's a pull request for that. Olaf has reviewed it, and I'm tempted with his review and my own to go ahead and merge that one. There's an ability to add search options to configuration options to the search block, a change to the way comments are rendered on nodes to make it so that you don't end up with empty markup. And that's it. So yeah, I mean, we've only got 5 days until release, and we've got about 7 or 8 open issues that we'd like to get completed before that date. So timeline-wise, we're in real great shape. Like, I mean, this is not a whole lot of pressure to complete these last items, and many of them are actually optional. They're just us wanting to be thorough and polish things for the 1.10 release. That's it for 1.10. It's really exciting. Just a couple days away. We're in really great shape, I think, for 1.10. And the best thing that we can ask our community members to do is to try it out. Try out the 1.x dev release and let us know if you encounter any problems. And if you do, file an issue in the GitHub issue queue and tag it for 1.10. That's it, I think, for the 1.10 update. Do you guys have anything you'd like to add regarding the 1.10 release? Anything that I missed that is a high priority? No? All right. Normally, we have a section in the agenda here. Jeff would do an update on Backdrop for Good, and he was with us at the beginning of the meeting, but it looks like he had to run.
Note. The note in the agenda says that they're waiting on requirements. So that's where they are. Oh, yeah, that was Backdrop for Good. So they've got a project. They're waiting for requirements.
Excellent. Okay, well then we move into just general discussion and Q&A. If there's anything you guys would like to bring up or discuss, now's the time. I'm
not sure if it was on the Gitter channel or the agency that I work for, the Slack channel, but CK Editor 5 is out. Did you guys check that out?
I looked at it. I read over the press release and the functionality and everything like that, and it looked neat. I didn't do an evaluation as to how drastically it breaks their APIs, although I'm certain that it does. Hence the major version bump. So I'm not quite sure what that means for us. I mean, I haven't seen, I guess there's IMCE module, but I haven't seen a lot of contrib modules that have, built out custom CK editor plugins. I think there's a question of how much stuff we would break if we upgraded to the 5.x version, and also the question of how much we gain from moving to the 5.x version. It's not obviously not possible for this immediate release, but yeah, I think we should do a thorough investigation as to the feasibility of upgrading it and what we get out of upgrading to it.
Yeah, I mentioned it because I can't remember what video I was watching. Maybe it was a presentation from Nashville, and they were mentioning it. And it brings out all of the functionality that is now in D8, a quick edit module, I think.
The what module?
I think they have a quick edit module. That allows you sort of like in-place editing, something like that. And WordPress is also working on, they have the new Gutenberg, whatever they call it, editor. So that's why I mentioned it.
Yeah. One thing I saw in it that looked appealing to me is they have a functionality that mirrors that of Dropbox Paper, where you basically use Markdown, but as you're typing the Markdown, it automatically converts it into the display style HTML. So you can do like, hash sign and then space and then start typing, and it will automatically convert that to an H1. Or backtick, 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 and automatically turn that into a code tag.
I'm not sure that's valuable for our primary audience of users. That's valuable for developers, but like most of the people who are drafting content are going to write it in Word and paste it in. They're not going to be typing in Markdown.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing, is that another thing why we shouldn't move to 5.0 yet is they specifically noted that their paste from Word functionality doesn't work in 5 yet. So I think we'll have to wait on that before before we even consider moving to 5, because that is kind of a key thing, that if their copy-paste functionality doesn't adequately strip stuff out, like coming from external sources, then that would be a big grievance for many users.
On the other hand,
that we might want to mention, though, is that right now the version that we're running of CK Editor is unsupported. And so a couple weeks ago when they had a security release, we had to patch the version we're running. So it might be valuable, even if we don't move to 5. If we move to a version that's supported, then that way it'll be easier to apply ongoing security fixes.
Yeah, the latest 4.x version, which I think is 4.8 something, and we're on 4.7 something.
The other thing, I think what's a quick screencast about the features is the one that caught my eye, where they have inbuilt captions for images, whereas I think we built our own solution, correct?
No, we're actually using CK Editor's image caption support functionality, but we the part that we have customized is just the dialogue for configuring how the image works. But when it comes to the actual display, that's CK Editor Image 2 plugin native. So we actually have very little modification on that area. But there is definitely some customization there.
Yeah. And the other thing was collaboration. That was a big feature.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm not quite sure what to make of it. Yeah, so they have Google Docs like functionality, or Google or Dropbox Paper functionality, where you can have multiple people typing at the same time, and it shows you where the cursors are and highlights who's typing what. But obviously that requires a server-side component, and they have smartly made that into a business offering where you can just pay them and they will host the service of the collaboration capability. But considering the rest of the content form wouldn't have that same functionality, it would make kind of an awkward fit. I kind of feel like that's something that would be like an awesome contrib solution until we figure out if it makes any sense at all being in core. But considering it'd probably have a dependency on their servers or some kind of specialized server configuration on the hosting side, I have a feeling that would be difficult for us to support directly. Yeah, interesting though, and I like that. I mean, it's always really great to see the libraries that we're using making improvements for us. You know, that we can then leverage. Maybe not immediately, but at some point in the future.
Yeah, and that was the point. We're doing jQuery update, you said?
Yeah.
It's happening now on the 110?
So the jQuery update is still, actually, Mike, I think you brought this up recently as well, that it's not an the upgrade that there's a pull request for is just upgrading to the latest version of jQuery Ui, not the latest version of jQuery itself. So we're still on the 1.10 release, which is the last release of the the jQuery 1.x branch, which right now is unsupported. But it's also like moving to jQuery 3 is not compatible with the version of, like, even with the backwards compatibility library, it's not possible to jump directly from 1.x to the latest 3.x version because there's 2 layers of compatibility libraries. You can upgrade to jQuery 3.0 with a compatibility library, but then there's another compatibility library to move from jQuery 3.0 to, like, I don't know what the current version is, 3.2 or whatever. So yeah, it's a difficult transition, and I'm not sure how we can handle that as far as backwards compatibility is concerned. I think my preferred route on this for the time being would be finding a vendor that has continued to support the jQuery 1.x version for security fixes and start using a fork of it that has security updates. Because there just has to be a vendor out there that is providing support for a library that is installed on like 1/3 of the entire internet. So, what was that, Mike? Were you gonna say something?
No, I said that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. So updating jQuery UI, I think, is completely feasible for us. The pull request is there. And Olaf has gone through and tested it, and it seems like all the functionality is still in place.
Actually, wasn't it? It looks like there's a 1.12 version of jQuery.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, 1.12. We are on the last jQuery release, which is 1.12.
Okay.
I can actually.
I think Drupal 7 is still on 1.10.
Well, Drupal 7 out of the box is still on 1.4.
Oh. Oh, you.
Yeah, you have to use jQuery to get.
Are they doing any security updates on that?
No.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, they're not doing it, and actually, if people are using jQuery update, it breaks a lot of the admin, not a lot, but quite a few of the admin backend default themes.
Yeah.
And certain modules stop working. You have some weirdness. That's why there's even options to select which jQuery version it's theme, or at least between admin and front end.
Yeah, it actually kind of brings up the need that, like, it was great for a while there that we were running the latest version of jQuery without really any problems. But now, because of the compatibility breaks, we may find ourselves in a position where jQuery update needs to exist as a contrib module again, so that we can have backdrop 1.x sites that can run jQuery 3.x if they want to.
Is moving slowly, like sort of like first to jQuery 2 version and then taking it slowly just so that we don't have many breakages? Is that a good idea?
Maybe. So also just version number wise, there's some weirdness around jQuery's version numbers. Version 1 and version 2 are actually the same thing, just with different levels of browser support. So jQuery 2 is actually the same as jQuery 1, just with all the old IE browser support dropped.
Are you serious?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
It's really strange.
Well, I guess dropping support was a breaking change, so they had to do a version number.
Yeah, exactly. But they actually, API-wise, they're identical. There's no difference in functionality.
So what's the difference in 3?
Yes.
Like what would break if we upgraded to 3?
So I think the largest change is they removed the bind method. I think that's the one that they removed, which is one of the primary ways of attaching click behaviors to stuff. There's still .click and there's still .submit and all of the event named ones, but it used to be in an early version of jQuery they introduced bind as being a superior way of doing event handling, but then later they introduced a more superior way of doing event handling called on. And so .on is still there and the most recommended approach to event handling, but .click, which is the simplest way to event handling, is still there. But bind, which is kind of the middling way of doing event handling, they've removed. And so I would bet there's a fair amount of contrib that is still using bind, and I wouldn't even doubt that core probably still has calls to that.
Yeah, but I mean, it wouldn't be hard to. Did anyone have a compatibility add-on to jQuery 3 that reintroduces all the deprecated functions?
Yeah, so that's the thing, is that you could. There is a library that adds back the deprecated functionality for jQuery 3. But then if you upgrade to the next version, they also had API breaks apparently in between jQuery 3 and, gosh, I need to know what the current version is, 3.2. Either that or their compatibility library. And yeah, they have to have had changes, which is not good. They were supposed to stop doing that when they supposedly started following semantic versioning, right? But there's differences between 3 and 3.2, and that requires a different compatibility library. And you can't just load both compatibility libraries and go from 1 to 3.2. You can only go from 1 to 3, use one compatibility library, and then once you get upgraded to 3, then you can go from 3 to 3.2 with another compatibility library.
But there's no one that like supports 1x compatibility for 3.2.
Nope, not that I'm aware of. Yeah, it would just kind of, you know, a major inconvenience. Sorry, the current version is 3.3. That's it. 3.3.1.
I think at some point there's also what broke was the end self and add back thing function. I think it was stopped being used after a certain version. I'm looking for it now. It's like a link. So yeah, add self was deprecated in favor of add back.
Interesting. Yeah, we probably have that in a number of places too.
I had this happen to a couple of sites recently with the 8 core updates. So there was a lot of styling breaking there.
Yep. Yeah, and Drupal 8, when faced with this problem, they just upgraded to 3 and said, yeah, deal with it. And it broke a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I just posted the link to the thing. It says it was deprecated in 1.8 and then it was removed at 3.0 in favor of add back. But that's a very simple change. Like you just do a search and replace, and that's all it takes. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Yeah, just doing a search through our code base, we've got lots of occurrences of some deprecated functionality. So the first thing we should do before anything else is go through our code base and update all of it to not use any of the deprecated functionality according to the latest version of jQuery.
Yeah, are all the functions that we need, are all the new functions that we would switch to in the version that we're using?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they haven't been removed, they're just marked as deprecated.
Well, I mean, like, you know, if we're switching from like click to on, is on in 1 point whatever?
Oh yeah, yeah, it's definitely there. And I think add back is as well.
All right, so I guess that's our first thing. But then, yeah, like, would we? Okay, so what do you guys think? Would we have to wait to like a major? Would we have to wait till Backdrop 2 to go to 3.0 if we don't have any backward support?
I would think so.
For small things like this, like the add back and self, we could file pull requests now, like to bring us closer to, you know, removing the deprecated and using the most current. That would be step one. At least there's going to be less work for us to do.
Yeah, so I think in 1.x our path here is restore jQuery update module, make it so jQuery update can swap out to jQuery 3.x. And then make sure that core works with jQuery 3.x. So we can use jQuery update module to like suss out any problems with things. But I mean, also just doing a find and replace and search throughout the code base.
Okay, here's a question for you. Would we want to add jQuery update into core as like a jQuery switcher and switch core and ship core with 2 versions of jQuery and the ability to switch? So when people upgrade their site, it stays on 1 branch, but any new installations go to the 3 branch.
I wasn't thinking exactly that, but something like that. So if we ship, see the issue that I bring up with experimental modules for D8, the thing that they're using it. If we could add that as an option, we could allow the risky guys or people that are willing to help, like such as myself, you know, or something like that. I just flip it to 3.x and try to see if there's anything broken, and then I report it. It would be a great way to have some feedback on what's broken instead of finding out after the fact.
Yeah, I don't think I can. I have to think about it.
All right. Do we have an issue for this?
We have the issue that is use the latest version of jQuery. I think we should make that one's already kind of a meta, an ongoing issue.
So we should probably do like
we can make a new issue and then link to it from this one.
yeah, maybe explore, well, we should probably have one for the moving functions to their less deprecated versions. That should probably be maybe even a meta, because we're going to probably have lots of cases of it that we have to sort out.
Yeah.
And then have another thread for discussing this possible upgrade paths for moving core to 3.0 or 3.3 or 3 whatever it is at the time.
Yep. So issue 2493 is the update jQuery, or keep jQuery and jQuery Ui up to date issue. So.
But are we up to date with the 1x branch?
Yes.
Yeah, we are.
So can that issue be closed?
Well, right now it also includes jQuery UI, which is what there's a pull request on it for.
Okay, that makes sense.
So
I think that, this ticket can be closed once jQuery announces that there will be no more releases for the 1.x thing.
The 1.x of jQuery UI, because there's already no more releases of 1.x for jQuery itself.
Yeah. Oh, I thought that we had separate tickets, one for jQuery and one for UI. Is it the same? I thought that there was
the same one right now.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's step off of that issue. And do we have anything else you guys want to discuss? We're running up against the hour-long mark.
Okay, no worries.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well then, thank you everybody.
Feel better, Mike.
All right.
You guys.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
We'll see you guys out on the other side of the release.